Welcome to the Astronaut Arcade Podcast, where your space hosts, Cowboy and Sapphire, share the latest information on anything video game related. Today, we'll be talking about Senua's sacrifice. So without further ado, let's begin the countdown to launch. Welcome back, everyone, for another episode 32 of the Astronaut Arcade Podcast. So today, Sapphire and I are going to be talking about a game that was recommended to us by Danger Powers called Senua's Sacrifice. And I got to tell you, what a game. Jesus, what a game. I sat down to play it and I was so hooked. I played the entire game in one run. Now, it's not a necessarily long game. It took me a little over 7 hours to complete the game. But man, what a game. Before we get to that, we're going to talk about a few things, catch up on things that are going on in life, getting over some things. And then we'll get into the topic of today. So first off, Sapphire, how are you?
Doing pretty good today. It's a nice sunny day, just hanging out outside doing this podcast with you. So, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I slept in late. I had a lazy morning, which is always nice. I would like to be productive sometimes, but sometimes I just don't want to get out of bed. I think we all have those days where we're just like, nah, not today. Not going to do it. Fuck it. And that's kind of how it was. I went to bed really late, couldn't fall asleep. So didn't wake up till like noon.
Yeah, we all have those days. Some more than others.
Definitely. I've been having them a lot lately. Don't know why. Nothing's wrong. I just don't have the I don't know, I can't fall asleep. Like, I was laying in bed last night watching TV and I was super tired and I was like, I'm going to bed. So I rolled over, then I rolled over, and I rolled over, and I rolled over for like 5 hours. Like, I just could not get comfortable, could not sleep. So I got a good 6 hours of sleep today, somewhere around there. Wasn't too bad. More than I usually sleep, so
Oh yeah, definitely.
not too bad all in all. But let's talk about what we've been doing this week. So Sapphire and I have been talking a lot this week about, plans for the show. We changed Dizzy Gaming to Outlaw Arcade, which was an idea that was floated around a while back, but I was kind of talked out of it. So we ended up not doing Outlaw Arcade. But now we are Outlaw Arcade, which is pretty cool. I'm excited to get back to that because it sticks to the cowboy theme of things, and it also sticks to the arcade theme that we have here at the podcast. So also, a lot of fun that we're going to have for that. We are currently working on revamping the website for that. We've already changed the name, some of the information. So now we're working on kind of fine tuning all of that to get the merch and subscription stuff done for that. And then when we're done with that, we are going to go back to the Astronaut Arcade one, and we're going to start reworking it. We're going to work on new merch items, new lines of stuff based on the games we're talking about. Um, not direct depictions of the game, obviously for copyright reasons,
Oh yeah.
but like sayings or phrases or stuff like that kind of represent what it is, and what the show is. With that being said, that is a work in progress. That will probably be something we have done by this summer time, I'm sure.
Oh,
um
hopefully sooner.
yeah, the plan is sooner, but I am really bad about procrastinating, and I am really bad about forgetting to do things. Um, I didn't write anything for this show until 30 minutes ago. I'm also streaming as of today the D&D game for Blueberry Lounge, and I have to go back and watch parts of the previous episode we recorded so I remember where we were. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be wild,
When's
and I
that
can't
supposed
wait
to
for them
happen? Is that
guys to hear
today?
this. It's gonna be tonight,
Oh damn.
in 3 hours.
Oh geez. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to watch you guys this time.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like I said with that one, I never planned any of it. Like the whole game, the day of the session, they were like, so what are we doing?" I'm like, I don't know, but we're gonna figure it out while we play." And
Oh yeah, that I don't think you're the only DM that does that. Like, even if they plan stuff, you still gotta do stuff on the fly because
oh,
stuff happens that you don't plan for all the time.
yeah. I'm one that, because I know things are gonna change, I am only gonna plan my key points,
Oh yeah.
and that is it. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in the story. I don't know how it's going to go. I have the beginning, the end, and a few things in the middle. That's it. Like, I do my maps and stuff. I do key items and stuff like that, or key characters, NPCs. But other than that, I do not shape my stories at all. My characters shape my stories. And that's one thing I love as a DM. I don't write the story, the game
Right.
writes itself. I just narrate it. And I love being a DM. I think it's so much fun. I love Dungeons and Dragons. Um, One day we will do a live Dungeons and Dragons episode here on the Astronaut Arcade. I know we talked about doing it for Halloween last year, and because of my grandpa passing, it just kind of didn't happen. Um, and so it is it is something I do want to do. I do have people reaching out to me like, "Hey, I want to do a D&D session, I want to do a live D&D session." Um so for anyone that is listening, if you want to do D&D and you've never played before, I have the plans to start a D&D for beginners stream. It'll be like 3 or 4 sessions, maybe 5 if things get out of hand or don't go well. But just for like people that have only played once or never played before or played a few times, run a beginner session, and we'll treat it as like not only me teaching you how to play, but teaching the audience, the viewers, how to play. And I think that'll be great
Oh yeah.
to put out there.
Well, I'm definitely gonna sign up then because I've been wanting to play D&D, but haven't had the
Hell
opportunity.
yeah. I noticed I have been clearing my throat a lot, especially the past 2 episodes. I've sounded really raspy, and I apologize for that. I just quit smoking, so withdrawals and healing and all that's kicking my butt. So that's why I've been clearing my throat a lot. I'm not sick. I'm just trying to quit smoking. Um, so yeah.
Well, that's good,
I
dude.
sound like an old man sometimes. It can get a little exhausting. I went outside the other day and told people to get off my lawn. And it can be, having a deep voice is really weird. Like what y'all hear right now, um, is me trying to raise my voice a little higher pitched, but I can't. because of the smoking. So that's why it sounds so raspy. Because normally I try to talk higher than my actual voice. Because if I don't, my voice is kind of monotone and it's a little deep, and it's not pleasant for trying to have a quick show. Um, so I try to talk a little higher, a little more vibrant. But right now I can't do that. Like my throat's just not letting me. So that was that. That's what I wanted to talk about there too. Because I noticed it when I was editing. I just sounded awful. Like my voice sounded raspy and like I had like dirt in my mouth. I don't know how else to describe it. So yeah, it'll get better.
Oh yeah.
We will have
Over
the
time.
voice of God back soon.
The voice of God back.
So I also love one of the other things I love about D&D. I love doing voices. Like a lot of people know I majored in music. So changing my voice was not really something that was hard for me. Um I got really good at changing my pitch, my tonality. Um, I used to work on imitations, which I'm not as good at anymore. It's still, it. I got to work on it because I haven't done it in so long. But you know, I loved doing stuff like that, and that's one thing I can really shine in D&D is the different voices. Like I love doing wizards, like really high, wiry voices. Like I think that's so much fun. And goblins, demons. I love doing those voices because it allows me to really like use skills that I spent a shit ton of money for that never got used. So
Yeah, I mean, I've heard you do a couple voices, and it's pretty fucking crazy, actually.
yeah, I used to be a lot better at it, and I think as I keep doing D&D, I will get better at it. My campaign, they thoroughly enjoyed when I did the last beginner campaign I did. They thoroughly enjoyed the voices. The only problem I have is because I don't pay attention to things because I have ADHD, I don't always remember the voice that I did for the character. So one of the things I often do, I often record myself while I'm playing so that I can go back and say, "Oh, this character sounds like this and this character sounds like this." And that kind of helps me cuz if you see me DM, if I have a character that comes back over and over and over again, I'm going to forget what his voice sounds like, and he's going to sound completely different than he did the first time. Um,
Yeah, tons of DMs go through that. Like, I watch Legend of Advantress, and there's a few times that like specifically Nikki, she'll forget the voice she used, and she'll have to switch it and stuff. It's just something that happens.
I mean, even Matt Mercer has done it on Critical Role a couple
Oh
times on
yeah.
accident. But Matt Mercer though, he's a professional voice actor. They all are on Critical Role, so they have a lot more experience doing these voices and working and practicing them. So you know, I'm not even going to try to compare myself to them. They are fantastic. Um, love them all. They're so it's so fun to watch them. I did talk about this on the DPS podcast. Even though they are somewhat scripted on stuff like that, like role like Critical Role or what's the other one? Dimension 20, um Dungeons and Daddies, even though they're more scripted, they still bring a lot of attention to the game. And they encourage DMs to try to express themselves in different ways. I have watched a lot of Matt Mercer's videos. If you go on YouTube or even on the D&D Beyond website, they have videos of him talking about how to be a DM. Like, they're fantastic watches if you haven't seen them. He even talks about how to be a player, how to do this, how to do that. Um, Great videos. And he talks about getting into your characters and stuff like that. And it's phenomenal. You know, the love that people like him and other, famous celebrities that we see in different things, the way they play D&D,
Oh yeah.
just phenomenal.
Yeah, 100%. Like, the people from like Baldur's Gate 3 and stuff have done a lot of like live D&D stuff, and people just, it's starting to become more of a thing that, like, it used to be like a geeky nerdy thing to do, and it's becoming more of a thing that people are getting really interested in it, because of all the exposure it's getting from different areas. Like, the only reason I got into D&D was because of Legends of Adventurous. Like, they showed me like how fun it could be to role play and go through these crazy situations and stuff like that with your friends, and all that kind of stuff. So it's something I've been interested in a while, and I'm actually kind of now looking forward to doing that beginner session and stuff like that, because I want to learn how to do it and everything, and it'll be fun.
And then speaking of D&D, I have admitted to this many times. So a lot of I did that D&D seminar, went over really well, got a lot of views, more than I thought. Good people showed up, good amount of people showed up, and it went over really well. And I said at the end, I gave everyone like homework to do, just write an intro to a story and send it to me. Only one person did, but I worked with that person and worked out, little kinks here and there. And I said, I'm going to go over some things and then I'm going to do a second episode of the seminar, or second part to the seminar, where I showed you how I build maps and how I build stories. And I forgot. I'm not going to lie. I completely forgot. It got brought
Oh yeah.
up in the DPS podcast, and I was like, yeah, I forgot. I forgot I was supposed to do that. Like, I completely spaced out. And so that is going to be worked out. That took me a long time to prepare. So that's a lie. It took me a lot of time in a 2-day period to prepare because I put it off till like the last minute. Um, I will not do that again because that whole seminar, I think all in total, it took me like 14 hours to write and, make the PowerPoint and do all that. It took me like 14 hours. And I
Right.
did that like straight. Like, I did not get up to eat. I didn't do anything. I just sat here and worked on that. And it was insane. So,
Yeah. You're gonna have to figure that out with the new schedule we've been talking about and stuff.
yes. And that's a great segue to bring us back to topic because I stay off of topic way too long. So, me and Sapphire have been talking about getting back into streaming. As a lot of you know, I have not streamed other than the Blueberry Lounge D&D session. I have not streamed since January, or
Right.
maybe even later than that, December. I don't know. I haven't streamed in a while because, I was dealing with my mental health and my
Mm.
fighting my addiction to alcohol, um, which I'm 2.5 months sober, which I'm so thankful for. It has been a journey.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you
You've been
know,
doing a good job though.
and so it is great, especially the battles, with mental health and alcoholism and any addiction really, it's a lot of it has the stigma of, somehow it's the person's fault. Like it's your fault you're like that, or it's this and that. That's not always true. Like, yes, I chose to pick up the drink, but there's a reason why I picked up the drink that not everyone can understand, and it's the same goes with any, mental illness and depression, anxiety. A lot of people love to say, well, just try to do this or try to do that. That's just not how life works, honestly.
Oh, yeah,
You know?
it's not that easy. It's always easier said than done. Like my addiction when cuz I've been sober from THC for like a little, I think it's been like a year and like 3 months, maybe 6 months, something like that. I haven't been keeping track, but mine is one of those things that a lot of people don't want to admit you can get addicted to. And I picked it up because of depression and stuff. Like I was doing it for over a decade, and it may not be as hard as alcohol to get over, but it was definitely one of those things that it was taking over my life. It really was.
Yeah, and it's just how our bodies work. Like, do we have faults in it? Yes. Is it all our fault? No, because we can't control every aspect of our life. We can't. We're people, you know? And so that's what I'm dealing with. That's how I'm facing my addiction and my anxiety, depression, stuff like that. I got help. I went to AA. I still go to AA. And I will probably go to AA forever, just because the moment you start giving up, or the moment you start thinking, oh, I can do this by myself, that's when it comes back and takes hold of you again. And I don't want that. I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to live that life. I don't want that life. Nothing good ever comes from it for me. There are people out
Yeah,
there that can drink and go out and have a few beers with their friends. That is fantastic. I am happy for you. I wish you all the best. I can't do that. If I go out and drink, I'm going to get drunk, and it's going to be
right.
nothing but problems for me. So,
Yeah. It's
never
just
again.
how it is for some people. I mean, it's everybody's different. Every, body responds to things differently. Like when I drink, honestly can't drink that much because I get really, really tired. And that's why I honestly have never been drunk in my life. Like I can drink half a glass of wine and that's enough for me because I get so tired from it. So I'm really not much of a drinker, and it's just one of those things that everybody responds differently to alcohol or, any other type of addiction.
Exactly. And so that being said, I don't want to go too deep into that, right now. Um, but with that being said, we have talked about, me and Sapphire here are going to do co-streams. Um, cuz we play games a lot and we're like, well, we're playing, why not just stream it? Might
Right.
as well. So,
Yeah, and Twitch actually has a thing now where it's streamed together and your
mhm.
viewers get combined and stuff like that, so that it makes it a lot easier to collab and everything like that. And speaking of, I'm gonna be trying to get the social medias back up for Astronaut podcast and Outlaw Arcade, and try to get, videos and everything up on the YouTube and all that kind of stuff, so people will have our social medias to look forward to too. It's gonna take a little bit of time, but I'm gonna get those up and running, and hopefully we'll be able to get, more people interested in what we're talking about and what we're doing.
Yeah, behind the scenes, we're doing a lot. Like last night, we went through and uh, got all the social media passwords changed. We redid the Instagram because, as I've talked about on the show before, the Astronaut Arcade Instagram, for some reason, I don't know why, I don't know how. I messaged Instagram about it. They couldn't tell me. It was just gone. Like it didn't exist anymore. Like
That is
and
really strange.
we had like a couple hundred followers on there at that point. Like it was growing really well. And then all of a sudden it was just gone. Like I went to log in and it said this account does not exist. And
I wonder if
people
someone
from
like got in and deleted the account or something, or for some reason
it
Instagram got
could
rid of
have
it.
been. Instagram said they didn't delete it, so I'm gonna take their word on that.
Yeah, the only
But
thing I can think is if someone like got in and hacked it for whatever reason and decided to delete the account,
yeah. So we got
or
a new
change the
Instagram.
use because you can change the emails and username, so they might have just taken the account and changed everything so you guys couldn't get into it anymore.
No, you can't even search it anymore. Like it does not exist. Like it is not
Right,
on
but
Instagram
but
anymore.
the but the thing is, if you go in and change the username and the email and the password, when you go to look it up, it's not gonna exist anymore because they changed everything. That's how they take over accounts, is they make it to where the old username or everything doesn't exist anymore.
But it should still, even if you change the name and stuff, it should still show up on your following list, like stuff you're
Mm,
following.
very true, very true.
So, um, but yeah, it's not there anymore. So,
Yeah, well, I'll
um,
get it back up and running and
we got the new
we'll let
one,
everyone
and
know.
yeah, we got the new one set up. We got a TikTok set up for the Astronaut Arcade. We got the TikTok for Outlaw Arcade. We got YouTubes for both. We have Instagrams for both. So yeah, we're working on that. And like I said, all of this we plan on being fluidly running by, the summer. That's kind of our new set goal, is to have all that by the summer. We hope to have it sooner, but that's like our to be done by date is the summer. So look forward to that.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool. We got a lot of stuff coming. Um and then there was one more thing I wanted us to discuss. Um, and now I just got to think of what it was. Oh yeah. So back we got off topic again. The streaming.
Right.
So we were planning on streaming Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday of every week. I believe that's the day we set.
Yeah, those
Um,
are like the only days we really have available to do all that.
so Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, me and Sapphire will be co-streaming starting next week. Um, which today is the 29th. So our first co-stream will be the 4th of April. Yeah, the 4th of April. So actually the day this episode comes out will be our first stream. I almost accidentally closed Discord. That would have been awful.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
And so yeah, I think that's going to be fun. We're going to have some things to look forward to with that. Do we know what we're going to play? No clue. Not one. No idea. We do know eventually we're going to play Repo cuz we've been talking about playing that for a little while now.
Oh, yeah.
Um
I think we should also get back into Raft. Raft is pretty
Raft.
was pretty fun.
But Raft's like such a really just chill vibe. I don't know if we're going to how
Yeah,
well that's going to go over on stream, but we'll find out. We'll figure it out.
true.
So, we are going to go ahead and take a quick intermission right here. And when we come back, we're going to get started talking about our topic, which is Senua's sacrifice.
Oh, yeah.
So get you some popcorn, get you some drinks, go use the bathroom if you need to, and we will be right back. All right, gamers and gamettes. We are back, and now we are going to talk about our topic of the day, Senua's Sacrifice. Now, I said in the beginning, I loved this game. It is really, really good. I think kudos to whoever made it, and shout out to Danger Powers again for bringing this game to my attention. I remember seeing a trailer for it a long time ago and just never thought to play it or grab it. And I'm glad I did, because it was worth it. So this game came out on actually has two different release dates. So it came out on PS4 and Windows in 2017. Then it got released on Xbox April 2018, which is our key ingredient for the month of April. So from this episode forward, every game that we're going to be talking about in the month of April is games that came out in the month of April. So this game, honestly, we were going to talk about this game regardless. But we decided, instead of waiting till April when it was April and we were recording, and then, y'all hearing it the week after, we were going to start now, since when this episode comes out, it will be April.
Right.
And it just so happened this game came out in April on Xbox, so it worked out perfectly. Senua's Sacrifice is this psychological thriller / puzzle game. It brings a lot of attention to the main character and how everything that happens revolves around different key points, and we'll get to those. But the way they set this game up, I mean, honestly, even for a short 7-hour game, it is phenomenal. I have very few bad things to say about it. What is, Senua's Sacrifice? You play as the main character, Senua. The point of the story is her lover was sacrificed by Norsemen, and she takes it upon herself to go to Helheim and try to bring him back. Well, not even bring him back to life, but release his soul from hell. I think would be the better way to put it, to save his soul. So one of the key aspects of this game is a lot of it is based on Norse and Celtic cultures, mythology, and they did a really good job at including those aspects. You end up fighting twisted souls of Norsemen, who's your main adversary throughout this, as well as the Norse gods. But one of the really cool things that this game has going on is your main character is stated as having this ability to hear furies. So you have voices the whole time you're playing, just talking and whispering to your character, and guiding and discouraging, and it's a big back and forth battle inside your character's head that you can hear going on. And oh my god, it's just the attention to detail,
Right.
the things they say, the way they say things. And
There's
you know, go ahead.
there's even like those stones and everything that you get a little piece of Norse mythology stories and stuff like that too.
Yeah, so the one of the things you do, you travel around Helheim, and you, like she said, there's like pillars that you find along the way. They have no purpose for the story itself. Oh, spoiler warnings. I'm sorry. We were supposed to say this at the beginning of the episode. We had a whole conversation about this. Spoiler warnings. Spoiler warnings. Spoiler warnings. Spoiler warnings. Spoiler warnings. If you don't want to hear it, please leave now. Um Now I'm going to continue. So these stones, you hear um, this man narrating, the different aspects of the Norsemen and Norse mythology and their struggles within her culture and their culture. And it's, oh my God. Again, the attention to detail. But Senua travels through Helheim, and she's kind of got to compete with her main adversary, which is the darkness. The darkness trying to take over her soul, stop her, but do so mostly indirectly, mostly through mental mind game kind of things. Um, you never outright see the darkness as far as like going up as a main villain you fight later in the game, like most games. No, the darkness is trying to take her over. It's trying to corrupt her. It is trying to feed into her negativity, her doubts. And man, it's just, oof, that's the
Oh
best way
yeah,
to put it.
and you get sent these periodically you get sent like these adversaries that you got to fight that are part of the darkness, and if you fail, it starts to slowly take you over every time you fail. It's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, it's really cool. You get afflicted by darkness, and you see her arm start rotting away, um which we'll touch on in a little bit because I have a really cool thing to talk about with that. um so throughout the game, I would say that what this game portrays to me is like the worst possible existence imaginable. I mean, you you live your character is like plagued with voices of doubt, self-loathing, discouragement, encouragement. Like these voices are what you would expect to hear out of someone that's like going through the worst parts of their lives. um Touching back to mental illnesses earlier, like negative self-talk, um, depression, frustration, anger, sadness, all these things, and these voices, these furies as they're called, are just whispering this the entire game. Like it doesn't stop. It is just constant. And you know, it's really cool that the trials that you go through in the game, the puzzles, the story, everything in the end feels almost trivial as like the story unfolds, and you start to understand her struggles. So I think the game is beautifully written. It does an excellent job portraying human psychosis. um I mean, this even makes it more beautiful when you find out everything that goes on from the beginning to the very end is in her head. And I'll take a second to reel that in. All these battles, conquest in hell, fighting this darkness that's trying to take you over. it hints at it the entire time that it's in her head, and you start to ask yourself that, and as it goes, it's like, well, maybe, well, this, well, maybe, and then it just says, no, this is in her head. And it did come from losing her lover. Her lover did die. He was killed by the Norsemen, but this journey that she's going through is the anguish and suffering and the psychosis that followed losing that love of your life, and the anger and the hatred and the self-talk and all of that. And it's so amazing. um you know, you see that as you go, that once you look back on it, you realize that every trial, every battle, every puzzle you had to solve, it kind of reflects on different forms of psychotic breaks and emotions. And I mean, it took an amazing team to make so much come together in just 7 hours. Like it's cinematic is the best way to put it. It is purely cinematic. Um, you know, the developer Antonides, he his team researched everything they could on like Celtic culture, and their views on mental disorder, not even just like mental disorder as we perceive it now, how it was perceived back then. Um, and even used like historical figures in Norse history, Celtic history, Norse mythology for a lot of the characters that take place, which there's not a lot of characters. Um, but one of the cool things about this, and I think a lot of games don't do this enough, they brought in a world leading neuroscientist, historians, and professors from Cambridge and Durham. Everyone knows Cambridge. It's like a big ass fucking university. So to think they brought in this team of people just to give them an idea of how the story should look. And they all worked very closely on this to kind of perfect this idea of um the psychotic break that Senna was going through. And one of the cool things is they worked with real mental patients, focusing on, you know, what they would hear or see during their episodes of psychosis. Um, and I don't want to go into too much about the patients themselves because that's not my business to speak on. You can read about it. Um, but you know, they delved really deep and they worked with these people for a good period of time and got to a real understanding of these people. Um, so the next thing I want to do, I want to read a quote from Professor Paul Fletcher. He was a neuroscientist from Cambridge, and he worked very closely with the team on the game. And this is what he had to say about it. It's been refreshing to see a representation of psychosis in which the person isn't just a sort of passive receptacle for madness. Senua is the hero of her own story, trying to make sense of her experiences and work through them. That's incredibly destigmatizing. In representations of mental illness on screen, you usually have the illness first and then a two-dimensional character attached to that. In this case, the character is fully formed and they are not defined by their condition. I think that's beautifully saying, hey, you know, movies, games, media in general touch on mental illness, but they've never really dive into mental illness the way that this game did. And I agree with that. You know, you see a lot of mental illness and stuff, but it's usually not coping with mental illness or how mental illness affects us. It's how we, in movies, you see people with mental illness lash out or do this or do that. It's not the internalization of it that you don't see. And I think that's awesome. So, the good and the bad of this game, which is really important to talk about. Most of this game has phenomenal reviews, has positive reviews, but just about every review has the same negative, and so do I. Um, as far as I'm concerned, the story was well done. It was well thought out. It was beautiful. It was played out. And one of the interesting things about this game, there's no world exploring. There's no free travel. You know, the game is very straight line. It is A to B. This is what you're doing. This is what's happening. But one of the things I did not like about the game, not even really that I didn't like, just I thought could be a lot better, was the gameplay mechanics. It wasn't always the best. It wasn't always smooth. Um, it did feel really clunky. It didn't always feel like it responded the way it should. That was my negative to this game, and my only negative to this game. And most reviews out there are the exact same thing. The gameplay mechanics honestly just wasn't there. Um, it could have been a lot worse, but it could have been a lot better. But cinematically, like the graphics for this game are so phenomenal that the cutscenes and the graphics blend seamlessly together. Like you go from a cutscene directly to your character starting to move, and it's almost inseparable. Like it's you can't differentiate between when it's a cutscene and when you're playing sometimes. Like it's just so seamless, and that's great, especially for a 2017 game. You know, we have that more now, but for 2017, I think these graphics were phenomenal. I think everything they put into it was phenomenal. Gameplay though. And the more I read on this, the more I understood. Um, this game only had 20 developers. All the motion capture, all the cutscenes, all of that was only done by 3 people, which is, I mean, I'm gonna say that's pretty damn good. I mean, that's a small team. They had a small budget. So yeah, I think they did great for what they had. Um, I'm gonna be playing Senua 2 here soon, and hopefully that they'll have worked out the gameplay issues and still deliver an amazing story. We will see. But I do this in every game I play. Y'all heard it when I talked about Destiny, how some of the graphics are beautiful, and then you got spots that are like poor quality or lesser quality just because they're there to fill the space. This game did not have that. From the moment you get off the boat, everything has detail. I could not find a single bad detail in this game. I looked. Like I played it the 7 hours straight, and then I went back and looked. I played it again just so I could find a bad detail. But there isn't. There's no bad spots. There's no bad graphics. There's no, you're getting stuck here. I couldn't find it. I don't know if it even exists. I think it was just really well done. Um, and then one of the last parts to talk about, and then we'll kind of back and forth discuss this. Um, during and Sapphire brought it up a little while ago. During the beginning of the game, you get into a fight that you can't win. Don't try, you won't win. It's intended for you to lose. So during the beginning of the game, you get affected by this darkness that kind of starts to rot your arm, and the story tells you, like, you'll get a chat box that'll pop up and it'll tell you, as you fail or as your character dies, the rot will continue to grow up towards her head. And once that happens, they called it the permadeath, in reviews and stuff like that. you have to start over. Or this is what the game tells you, that after this happens and it reaches your head, you have to start over. And this, honestly, is, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest psych outs I've ever seen in a game, with the biggest effect on you as the player. Because the more you get into the game, the more anxiety you start to feel every time you take damage, every time that rot starts to grow. You get like 5 hours in and you're like, damn, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose. My character's gonna die. I'm gonna have to start over. And that grief and that anxiety builds up in each and every fight. And it portrays it in a way that you kind of feel the grief. You share the grief and, the urge to accomplish Senua's tasks, the same as, not the same as she does, but you kind of understand it. It kind of puts that fear and distress in you. Um, and the most beautiful part about it, it is all a lie. No matter how many times you die, no matter how many times you fail, the rot will never reach Senua's head. Now, this was crazy because the first time I played this, I was stressed, especially in some of the harder fights towards the closer to the end. I was like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And I'm sweating trying to get some of these fights done. And then to find out it don't matter. You won't have to start over. But like I said, the stress it gave me, the anxiety it gave me, really immersed me in the game and the character and the story. And it's beautiful. I think phenomenal. Kudos, whoever idea that was in the development team. Holy shit. Fantastic. So now we're going to do a little back and forth on this, talk about, our experiences with the game, some things we did, and we'll go from there. So, Sapphire, we will start with you since you didn't make it very far.
Oh yeah, no, I still gotta work to get through that game. I'm not very good with horror, and the voice of the illusion god, which is literally the first one I went for, really got to me. Like, if you can't really deal with like voices and stuff like that that are deep, I mean, it was speaking. I think it was speaking in Norse. I'm not quite sure, but you can't understand it. But it's this deep, like, I don't know what you want to call it, maybe foreboding or foreboding, whatever you want to say. Voice that just like as you get closer to certain things, where you think it's that god, and then it turns into something else, it gets louder, and it really got to me, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I completely understand. We were talking about it while she was playing it, and I hadn't I wouldn't say no problem playing it through on the other end of the spectrum. I didn't have much of a problem playing it through. It does get to you, like all the voices constantly going, and then the self-talk and the negativity and the deep voices, the dark voices. Um, you know, it it's heavy, and it can trigger things. It can um bring out fears, which again, like, they brought in a team. Like the professor from Durham he's one of the foremost people on hearing voices.
Right.
That's his main focus of study, is hearing voices, how it affects people. So the way they did it, where they could make it sound like it's right up next to you or far away, or in between. It was just perfect. The voices sound like they're fading in and out, and like they're sometimes it sounds like they're flying right at you.
Oh, yeah, and
And
sometimes it's a whisper, and it's
mhm.
just yeah, I think one of the reasons it also got me is because I went to that game completely blind. I had no
Yeah, I
idea
didn't
what the
tell
game
her
was
nothing.
about. Yeah, I had no idea what it was about. I didn't read up on it. I didn't watch any trailers. I just went in completely blind, so I had no idea what to expect. And it now that I kind of know what to expect, I don't think it's going to be that hard for me to get through. But going in completely blind was definitely kind of a freak out for me.
So, one of the things I can say about this game, there is nothing about this game that makes it hard. This is not a Dark Souls game. It is not there to challenge you to it's there to tell a story. So,
Hmm.
yeah, there are some challenges. Some of the puzzles can be a little tricky.
Right.
But for the most part, the game is not difficult.
Yeah, and
And
you can change the combat difficulty at any time. You can turn it on auto, easy, normal, hard. I mean, you do not have to play the game like it's, like you said, like Dark Souls or something. They're trying to make it to where you can focus on the story, I think, more than the combat.
yeah, I played it on hard. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start it out on hard because in my head, the story with what little I did read of it, um, seemed like this would be a real struggle. So I wanted to get that experience of a struggle. There were times I did struggle. Um, but for the most part, it wasn't like a again, it wasn't a Dark Souls game. It wasn't a huge challenge. So you're not going to go into this and just not be able to beat it. You can always change the difficulty if you're struggling, or if it's too easy, you can always raise the difficulty. Um, and I think that's great. There's another little key detail that kind of made it work a lot better for me too. Um, and one of the I can't. So I don't know if Sapphire wants me to spoil too much of it or not for her, but I think when we do Senua 2, we'll talk about this part I got in mind next. Because when we talk about Sue, Sapphire is going to talk about her experience finishing Senua 1. And we're kind of going to wrap up Senua 1 and then go into Senua 2 at the same time.
Right.
So I'm not going to talk about the end, other than like I said, it is all in her head. But how you get there is what matters, not what happens. So how you get there, I'll leave untouched for now. This game was made by a company called Ninja Theory. Um, you may have heard of them, you may have not. They are an indie company. Like I said, they only had around 20 developers for this game. They're the company that made the not very good Devil May Cry reboot back in 2013. Um, I was reading up on this, how that went too, because I remember playing it, but I didn't play it very much because I wasn't a huge fan of it. Um, they got death threats over that game, which is insane. Like, people mailed them death threats over the DMC Devil May Cry reboot.
That's
Crazy.
insane.
They also made Kung Fu Chaos. I remember that game, but not a whole lot. It was an original Xbox game way back in the day. And they also made Heavenly Sword, which I've heard of but never played. So those are some things they did. Now, how well was this game received? Really, really well. It got great reviews in 2017. It was nominated for 6 awards. In 2018, it was nominated for 8 awards. No, I'm sorry. It won 6 awards in 2017. It won 8 awards in 2018, and it won 2 Webby Awards in 2019. It was also nominated for Golden Joystick's Game of the Year in 2017 and 2018, which is awesome. Like I said, the only bad review this game really ever has is the gameplay mechanics. The world is universally in agreement on that for some reason. Um, Now, this really, really wanted to touch on, especially since this game's main focus is mental illness, um, and we talked about it earlier today, and I really, really, really appreciate this little bit of information. So, October 10th of 2017, the company donated all profits from sales on that day to a mental health charity called Rethink Mental Illness. And that is just superb to me. They said, hey, everything from midnight to midnight, everything we sell today, we're giving that to charity. They went so deep into what mental illness was to make this game that they felt they needed to give back. And that's phenomenal. Uh, whew, I love it. And
Oh yeah.
just kudos to y'all. Great guys, great company, great game. Music. We all know I love talking about music. Music. The music in this game is phenomenal. It perfectly suits the game, and in most places it is so perfectly timed that like when something is happening, the weight of the whole game just shifts right then and there. And it was composed by David Garcia Diaz and Andy Laplegua. I don't know how to say that, but they did an amazing job. They built such great ambiance. My only negative to the music, and this is just a tiny negative, and this is kind of a me personally negative. This isn't even a bad negative. Um, that was a double negative. Uh, is that I wanted a little more. I wanted a little more of the music. I think what they did was great. I think where they put it was great, but I wanted just a little bit more. I had it pulled up on Spotify here earlier. It has a total of um 13 songs, and they're all only about 3 minutes long. Um which yeah, the whole track, the whole soundtrack's only 49 minutes long. Um
Right.
so we talked earlier about some games like Red Dead and um I don't remember what the other game was that had a huge soundtrack. Um but they're in the hours, and I think Red Dead was 35 songs in an hour and 55 minutes. So I would have loved to see a little bit more, but that's just me. I mean, I still think it was phenomenal. I gave the music like a 9 out of 10. Um, so that was my rating of it. Mm, and that's kind of where we're gonna go into next. So we're gonna give our ratings. Sapphire's gonna rate, what she's seen so far in the game and
Hmm.
how she feels about it, and then I'm gonna rate, what I experienced through the playthrough.
So my experience with this game, right? it was short, but like you brought up, they did very good attention to detail. Um, One of the things I thought was really cool is that when you first pull up to the bank, because the opening scene is, her on a boat going down a river. There's kind of graphic a little bit, but there's like dead bodies staked on a pathway, and there's even details in those. Like you can go up to those, and they have full on details, and that's sometimes something you don't expect, like because it's in the background, and you think they wouldn't pay a lot of attention to that, but they made sure that even when it was in the background, it still had detail to it. And I get what you're saying about the music, but I think it's because they try to focus more on the voices in the background rather than the music. Um, and I really think the graphics do really good, especially because they did uh what was it? Motion capture, and they, like you told me, they did it like in a hotel room. So I
No,
think
in
it's
their
really good.
boardroom.
Oh, in their
I read that
boardroom.
wrong. Yeah, it was in their boardroom, which is pretty
I think it's
insane. Their entire motion
oh
capture was
yeah.
done by 3 people, 1 camera, in a boardroom. And they did
Oh
it
yeah.
all, the entire cutscenes, everything. They did it all in one straight session. They wanted to make it a one take session. So every cutscene you see throughout the story was done in one straight succession. That's insane.
Right. Yeah, it is, especially with such a small team. I mean, 20 developers. They did stuff in one take. They had like 3 people doing those things. I mean, the fact that the only downside is sometimes the gameplay is a little messed up is absolutely incredible for such a small team. Um, Usually there's a lot more bugs in games and stuff when you got such a small team like that, and I think it's awesome that they went the extra mile to get experts in this rather than just, doing the research themselves, because sometimes when it comes to games, the companies are just like, oh, we're just gonna, do the research ourselves, and then they either portray it wrong or they don't portray enough about certain aspects of things, and I think
They do
that
wiki
it's really
searches.
great. Yeah, I think it's really great that this team went the extra mile to bring in experts, and even I don't know if they brought in export experts for the Norse stuff, but they went the if they didn't, they went the extra mile to make sure they got things right, that they got the
Yeah,
way everything's supposed to be set up in Helheim, everything like that. Like I haven't even gotten through the gate of Helheim yet or fought any of the gods or anything, but I still think it's amazing that they're like, hey, people know about Norse mythology, but they don't know about this aspect of it. Like they usually know about the other, like Asgard and Thor and Odin and Loki. Let's show them the opposite aspect, which is Helheim, which I don't know if a lot of people really know anything about that because everything's more focused on the other side. And I think it's a really cool concept that they're like, let's do something different this time.
yeah, I agree. And so, from what I did read about this and what I was able to find out, they did bring in a team of historians, or they did work with historians. The team, the developers, the whole team researched everything. They worked with historians. They worked with the neuroscientists. They worked with psychologists. I mean, they dove deep into this. Like, I'm sure
Yeah,
this research took just as much time as actually making the game, which
right.
is phenomenal because you see a lot of games, you'll be like, well, that doesn't make sense, that looks like you just looked it up on WikiLeaks and or Wikipedia, and you know that's what you believe. No, this is like professionals who studied this their whole lives coming in and saying, "Hey, this is what you need." And I think that's so great because like a lot of movies you watch that have like psychosis and mental illnesses, you know, even then, you would think with something as big a budget as like a movie that's coming into theaters, you would think that it's gonna have like really specific, detailed information that they went and got. Hey,
Right.
let me get this psychologist. And these aren't psychologists or psychiatrists. These are world renowned people. These are world renowned neuroscientists. They're world renowned professors. Like
Right.
these are people that are in the top of their field on these
Yeah, they're
subjects.
experts. They're experts in their field. Like, the fact that even like $1 million budget movies can't shine a light on mental illness like this game does is it's absolutely crazy to me, because like most of the time when it comes to especially hearing voices in your head, they make it seem like such a bad thing. Like, oh, if you hear voices in your head, you have to be this crazy, maniac, or you have to be just really unbalanced and everything. And this kind of shows a different light that you can hear voices in your head, but you can still be kind of balanced about it. Like, I know I didn't play very long, but you could tell that she like can deal with the voices, and it doesn't seem to affect her too much, to
Yeah,
where
there's
like
even a part where she says she's accepted them as part of her.
right,
Um, and I think that's perfect because you watch movies, they portray mental illness always as a bad thing. Like it's always
hmm
these people are sick, they're bad people. But there are people out there that have really bad mental illnesses that live day to day and you won't even notice it.
yeah.
And
I mean,
you know, it and that's what this game does. It says, "Hey, it seems like a Celtic woman." They talk about how she has this gift, she can hear the voices and stuff like that, and they portray her as and not a normal person, but a functional person. And
right,
the way they come back to it, I think is just really, really good.
right.
Um,
The way they portray her is like if you met her in person and didn't know what was going on in her head, you would have no idea.
mhm.
Like, and that's how, a lot of people with mental illness are. You have no idea what's going on in their life or behind closed doors, because they're, like you said, they can function just like everyone else. Um, so I think it's really awesome that they went the extra mile to kind of not only portray things right, but kind of give a different insight to mental illness than the rest of other media has done. And I haven't gotten very far, but like honestly, this game, for what it is, how little time they worked on it, how little of a budget, the amount of people they had, they did such a fucking great job. I mean, I couldn't even tell that it was that small of a team. Like, to me, it looks like the way they wanted to portray it, where it looks like it's a AAA game, but it was done by an indie team. And it's fantastic that they, decided to do something like that and show that even though you may have a small team, may have a little budget, you can do amazing things.
And that's something else I've mentioned. These past few years are really indie games' time to shine. Most people are so fed up with AAA games and what they've become, what they do, um, that these indie games really have a chance to outshine them in so many ways. And I think that's awesome because most of the indie games I've played lately are phenomenal with small teams, small budget, and they're honestly AAA games. Y'all gonna have to step up because these indie games are putting y'all to shame. Like honestly, they're putting y'all to shame. Um,
Well, yeah,
especially
and I
this
think,
game.
oh yeah, and I think one of the main reasons why is because when it comes to AAA, they have these people who are up top that don't have to do the work, that are putting pressure on these developers to get
Right.
things done in a certain amount of time. So they're not able to put actual proper work into things. But when you're indie, you like one example is I've been waiting for chapters 3 and 4 of Deltarune. It is done by Toby Fox. I don't know if he has any other help or if it's just all him, but he doesn't have a certain deadline. He could be like, hey, it's going to be released in 2025. And then he could tell everyone, say, hey, I still got to work on things. I'm going to push it back to 2026. People can be upset about it all they want, but it's the fact of he's not held to any deadline, to, any boss hanging over them saying, hey, I don't give a crap about the bugs or anything. I just need you to get this game out because we need to make profits. And I think that's one of the
Right.
reasons why indies are doing so much better. They also are doing a lot better because they can do their own thing. They can come up with their own ideas. They can they're probably not afraid to speak up or say, hey, I think this would be a good idea, because when it comes to small teams, they tend to be closer and they tend to be probably more on a friend basis than like a boss and employee basis. And usually when it's like that, it's really hard sometimes for people to, even if they bring up the ideas, to get their ideas even implemented in the game, because they don't want to deal with that, or they don't have the time for that, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's one of the reasons why AAAs are starting to lose to indie games, to be fair.
Oh yeah. I mean, I agree. These these bigwigs really kill gaming because they don't care about games. Most of the
I
people
know.
that run these AAA companies, they don't give a shit about games. I'm sure they haven't even really played a lot of games. They are just
Right.
there for money. And gamers are starting to realize that, and they're starting to say, "Hey, you know what? I don't enjoy this anymore." And
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're at in society. And these indie games come out for 10, $20 versus $89 for a new game, a new AAA game, and they're like, yeah, I'm just gonna play that. And they get a so
Yeah.
much better experience. And
Like, yeah, go ahead.
I think that is what AAA games need to start bringing back. They need to start bringing back the attention to detail. They need to start bringing back the for the customer or for the consumer models of video games. Let's give people what they want, and
Right.
then go from there. Yes, you got to make money. You're in a business, you have to make money, especially big companies
Yeah.
like Activision. We all know I hate Activision, but they have to make money or else they die. And
Right.
honestly, at some point, I'm going to be okay if Activision dies out. But at the same time, they did put out good games. For a long time, Activision put out great games.
Right.
Then it got to be about the money, and it stopped being about the game. And
Right.
that's where we're at right now. And hopefully, within the next 5 to 10 years, they're gonna say, "Hey, we're struggling. These indie games are killing us. We've got to change something." So that's
Yeah.
that's what I'm waiting for, to see that change. And I think it will come within the next 5 to 10 years, but who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, I think Bungie's kind of going the same way with that, where they're carrying more, cuz like the last DLC, I think it's Lightfall. I bought it, I started playing it a little bit, but it was just, I don't know, it was the same old same old. It was like, why did I just spend like $100 on this DLC just for the same old stuff, but a little bit of different maps, a little bit of a different scenario? And it's, and then they sometimes they have major bugs, like the, I forgot what it's called, but it's the tournament where it's between, the Titans and Warlocks and the Hunters, and daily, like in the main area they have where the flags are raised and everything. They had a lot of bugs with that, and they had a lot of bugs recently with other things that they implement every single year, and it's like, how? You guys do these annually. You do them every single year. How are you having these major bugs that
For a game
it
that's been
doesn't make
around as
sense?
long as it has.
Right. And not just that, like you're releasing DLCs, but it's the same old stuff. Like, why is it the same old villains? Why is it, give us something new? Like, people paid, like I said, like I paid like $100 for that DLC, and I ended up playing like maybe a few hours of it because it was the same old stuff. It wasn't interesting. It was like, okay, you added a couple new powers for, the for people to mess around with, but other than that, it's the same old enemies, it's the same old crap. Like, give me something new. You guys have been around for so long, but you're literally just giving the same old. And a lot of people stopped playing it. Like a lot of people on in Space Mafia, I remember bringing it up to I believe it was to Danger, and he was like, "Yeah, a lot of us stopped playing because not just because of the bug issues, but because it was just the same old crap." And it's they're more worried about getting the money because people are excited about it than they are keeping them interested in the game after they give them the money. And it's really sad to see, especially because
Yep.
they've had to lay off so many people. They've had like 2 to 3 big layoff things where they've had to lay off like over 200, 300 people. And it's like that is the cost of you guys only caring about profit and not caring about what the consumer really wants.
It's funny you brought the layoffs up because I have a video on my TikTok where I was playing with Chase Raz. I love the dude. Great. He actually introduced me to playing Destiny. We played a lot together. When I did play it, I haven't played it since, but we were doing the very first part of the Lightfall story,
Mhm.
and we were looking. I'm like, man, this is like some really good detail. The music is beautiful. It gives you that otherworldly vibe, and then you turn around and it's just shit graphics.
Yeah.
And like the rock wall and stuff. And then I look back and I go, before layoffs, after layoffs.
Right, right. It's absolutely insane. I mean, so that's why I'm really like glad um the game, had such a small team because they were able to properly focus on, hey, let's get the graphics good. Let's, make sure there's no bugs. They weren't held the deadlines. They were able to get, all these experts in and stuff. And it just, like you said, besides like little parts of the gameplay and stuff, it made it a phenomenal game. It makes sense that when it came out, why it was such a big deal, why so many people were raving about this game.
So, that being said, we have 4 points that we're going to go over: um, story, graphics, gameplay, and music. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate each category so far?
So graphics, I think they really did good. They did pay a lot of attention to detail and everything. So that I probably give like that a 10 out of 10. I haven't run into anything yet that, seems like it's out of place or doesn't have detail. Um, I mean, even the waterfall, the way the water goes down and everything like that, they made sure to try to make that as realistic as possible. Um, Gameplay. Now, I can't really give a huge fair assessment on that because I haven't played the whole game. So I haven't run into any of the issues that you've talked about. So far, that's probably going to be like a 9.5 since I can't really give too much of a true insight on that. Um, it kind of goes with the same with music. I've only heard a little bit about it. I would say that, the composer did a really good job. And it is kind of a shame that there's not more music, but I kind of understand why they did it because they wanted to focus more on the voices she was hearing rather than having it drowned out by music. Um, what was the other topic? I kind of forgot.
Story.
The storyline. Yeah, I think they really did a good job with that. That, she's doing this for her true love, that unfortunate circumstances led them to that, and she's, going to free his soul from Helheim because, um, she's going through such hard trials and stuff because she loves this man so much that she's willing to go through all this pain and suffering and everything just to get him where she thinks he deserves to be. Um, I really think that's an amazing concept, an amazing story, that she's willing to do all this, willing to deal with all the voices and go through all these trials just because of the love she feels for him.
1 out of 10.
I probably, so far, because I haven't really gotten far, I'd probably give it like a 9.8, to be honest.
9.8 on the story. And what was your music? 1 out of 10.
Music, I'm probably gonna give that like maybe a 9.3, since I haven't been able to experience a whole lot of it.
Alrighty. So and we're gonna go back once she has completed this game, and we do Senua 2. We're gonna go back and kind of reassess this and see if she still feels the same. So that's kind of where we're at with her ratings. We come out to a 9.65 out of 10. Which in any game, that's a phenomenal rating. So
Oh yeah.
you heard it here. Sapphire's rating so far is a 9.65 out of 10. Now, me, of course, graphics got a 10. I think the graphics are phenomenal. I have played through the whole game, and I have not found a single bad spot. And to me, that is worth more than gold, to have a game that is near perfect throughout. And the way the graphics and cinematics blend together, or the graphics and cutscenes blend together, I think is phenomenal. So, you have those games where you have a good graphic game, but then you have like these super cinematic cutscenes that are like completely different graphics, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, that's cool, I guess. Yeah, this game didn't do that. It just blended so perfectly together. For me, the story is a 10 out of 10. It's a phenomenal story. I have zero complaints about it. Every aspect of it worked. And then every aspect of the story that once you look back after finishing it makes even more sense. And whew, yeah. For me, gameplay got an 8. Yeah, gameplay mechanics got an 8. It was not good. And I I mean, it worked for the game. The game is not heavily combat focused. It's more about the story. Yes, I understand, but it does feel clunky. Movement mechanics, fighting mechanics, it feels clunky. For 2017, it should have been better. That might be a little unfair for some, but that's just how I feel about it. For music, I gave it a 9. Um, just because that I I don't want a lot more. I like you said, I didn't want it to overpower the voices. I didn't want it to overpower the story. But there were some scenes. Ooh, some good music would have been great right here, and I felt like it did slightly miss the mark on that. So for me, the game got a 9.25 out of 10. Still phenomenal rating. Honestly, I think one of the things we could do is at the end of the year, we can kind of look back and review how we rated these games and do a best reviewed game of the year award kind of thing.
Right.
So right now, this is like the number one contender. I don't know how Senua 2 is going to be. It might be even better. Don't know. Looking forward to that. But right now, this game, 9.25 out of 10. For me, Sapphire, 9.65 out of 10. We'll average those out, and that's going to be its total score for this game. But I don't want to average it out yet until she comes back and says, oh, yeah, this is exactly what I think it is after playing the whole game. That being said, there's not much else that I had planned to talk about. Anything you want to touch on?
I just want to, say I hope everyone enjoys what we have planned for April. I'm really excited about it. Because we have a few different games that we're gonna be playing and talking about, and yeah, I hope you guys really enjoy what we have coming, and hope you guys look forward to it just as much as I am.
Well said. And finally, on the Astronaut Arcade podcast, y'all have heard me talk about it since the very first day, but I am finally doing a Final Fantasy episode next weekend. We are finally doing Final Fantasy because there were some Final Fantasy games that came out in April. But we're not going to touch on each Final Fantasy game individually. We're going to talk about Final Fantasy as a series, and maybe one day I'll do a breakdown of different Final Fantasy games. But I really just want to touch on Final Fantasy and how it, as a series, has kind of been my intro to gaming. You know, how it brought me into gaming, how much time I spent on it, how much I worked at it, and how much I just love Final Fantasy as my favorite series of all time. So yeah, look forward to that next week. That is what we're doing, and it'll be continuing our April games made in April, or April of games made in April, however you want to put that. But yeah, I mean, looking forward to that. One final thing I want to say, especially since this whole game, this whole conversation has been very heavy on talking about mental illness, depression, sadness, anger, frustration, all these emotions that everybody feels and everybody has in them. If you have any kind of like self doubt, depression, sadness, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can reach out to me anytime. I am happy to talk to anybody about anything. I have no life, so I will
Hey,
talk to you.
they can reach out to me too. I mean, and remember, there's always help out there. You're never alone. I mean, if reaching out to one of us isn't enough, you can always reach out to a professional and get some help and everything like that. Like, don't think you're alone. Do not think you're a burden, because you're not. Everyone goes through trials in life, and sometimes they get really, really hard, and sometimes you just need that extra help. And don't worry about it. You're not putting anyone in a bad position.
Yeah, and if you don't feel comfortable talking to someone or one of us, you can always message me. I have a list of resources. I can show you how to find help that you might need that's anonymous. I can show you how to I can show you where you can research these things. I have no problem helping you with that because it's important to me. It's something I suffer
Yeah.
with personally, it's
Mm.
pretty much what's defined this year for me so far. And so I have a lot of these things that I can help with and give you information on. So yeah.
Right. It might even be a good idea to put maybe not the whole list, but a few links in the description of this episode. So just in case
Yeah,
they, don't feel comfortable with even messaging you, that they have a little bit of resources to look forward to.
absolutely. Yeah, I will definitely do that. So just look out in the description. There will be some links to some stuff you can do, some stuff that might be able to help you depending on what you're going through. And yeah, um, with that being said, that is where we're going to wrap up for today. I think this has been a great episode. Sapphire came out swinging today. She had more energy. She was starting to get into the podcasting spirit, and I'm happy to see it. Um, still not sure if she's an alien. We're still on the fence, but we do know now that she is not me in a wig yet. So with that being said, thank you for listening to the Astronaut Arcade podcast, where we take one small step for man and one giant leap for gamer kind. And as always, Pluto is a planet.